Hey there guys, DMO73 and the Messenger Lilius Petal here, bringing you some news before we get to the feature match. If you're not aware, this coming month is Gen Con, actually Gen Con's 50th anniversary in Indianapolis, Indiana. So this is one of the biggest gaming conventions of the entire year. Force of Will is going to have a booth there, showing off all the new stuff, doing lots of demos and all kinds of things, and I am going to be there helping. So I'm going to be there all 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the booth at various times. So please feel free to come and say hi, check it out, you know, have a demo, show the game to your friends, maybe see some of the cool stuff that's coming out for Force of Will moving forward. We're going to have lots of cool stuff to show off at the show, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I have heard that there's supposed to be a cosplayer there, so we'll have to see which character kind of shows up. This may or may not be an indicator of that. So anyway, if you guys are going to come, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to see you guys there. Give me a heads up. And as I said, just stop by the booth whenever, and I'd love to meet as many of you guys as possible. But until then, let's just go ahead and get right back to the feature match. So thanks, guys. Hey there guys, DMO73 here, bringing you a feature match for the week featuring 2 really fun lists. I am playing a blue, white, black flute list focused on spirits. This list was submitted through my little fan contest that I did on the Force of Will TCG US Facebook page. I asked people to submit their flute lists. This one came up as one of the many that was submitted. I had a blast testing it out, and so I figured this was going to be the one that I was going to showcase. This was designed by Tyler McBride, and is all about stalling out in spirits and using flute to kind of help you draw cards and get to that quick cast state. Super fun. And Paul is playing a red, black, white Gil Lapis list with a little bit of a, updated of course for echoes, and involving a cute little combo that was sent to, kind of designed by my friend Kyle Parks. It uses Valentina 2 and the Attoractia regalia to kind of form this like infinite removal cycle. So hopefully you get to see that, but this is Attoractia Gil Lapis 2. So Paul is going to choose whether to go first or second. I had rolled off screen and only rolled a 4, so let's see how this goes. So we've got black, white, red versus blue, white, black. Definitely going to be interesting since he has graveyard hate, whether or not the spirits with Almerius can keep up. So let's see how it goes. So I call for my first stone, hit a Dark Depths, try to play my dragon to get ready for next turn. Paul draws his card, calls his first stone, hits an Ebon home, so I have to exile a card. There goes an Undyne. He's going to target my little dude and then cast Lightning Strike, so it'll get removed because of Gil Lapis's effect. So unfortunately I don't get to then call for a stone. I, alas, don't really have anything turn 2, which is fine. I have that manifestation of power in my hand, which is super important in case he plays Barrier Seal here on turn 2, which could be really bad. But he hits another Ebon home, so I'm safe there, and then he hits a Magic Rebound off the Ebon home. So now he's deciding what he wants to do there. You see he does have the Barrier Seal in hand, so that could be potentially really bad if he gets there. Decides to go ahead and cast the Nameless Mist. He does run a discard package in this. It makes a lot of sense. And he hits the Manifestation of Power because he knows that it's my way of dealing with his Barrier Seal. And then he just passes the turn there. Stone though Flute's Water Dragon, so I'm going to go ahead and call for Stone. I'll play out a Shade. Not a Shade, sorry, play the wrong card. Play an Abdul. I know he does utilize enter effects a lot with Gil Lapis. Both Gil Lapis resonators and stuff, and Valentina, and I don't really want him getting those, so Abdul's a really good way to stop that, plus it's got a good stat line. Calls a stone, hits another Ebon home, hits a Truth of Time for me, which is unfortunate. So all of these cards that are getting RFG'd are just becoming more fuel for him later. Truth of Time becomes, once he has 6 cards, I mean, he'll be able to cast it essentially once per turn. Not at instant speed, so it'll have to be during his turn, but he can just draw 2 cards with it once Gil Lapis gets flipped, which is pretty insane. And so we'll see what happens until how long it takes him to get there. So he plays that little red from Echoes and then just swings over my Abdul for 4 damage, which is fine. I'm not super concerned about that. 4 damage, and I play a lot of life gain, so I'll play this Undyne here to bounce it back to his hand, and then I'll play Shade, so if he tries to play it again next turn, I can just burn him for 6 and gain some life back, and then I'm going to go ahead and gain, or swing at him for 6 damage, so hitting him for that 34. So again, it seems like my position's pretty good here, but as you see in his hand, he's got that final battle, and none of my stats are superiorly huge. So it's a matter of whether or not he wants to use that now or to kill my Flute later. He's going to use Gil Lapis's effect to target Undyne again and then Lightning Strike it just like he did with the Flute's Water Dragon. So now the Undyne is now RFG'd. So every single card that gets RFG'd by Gil Lapis just becomes, hey, you know, that's just one more closer step to Judgment and one more card I can potentially cast. Without things like Leviathan or Guinevere or things like that, I think Gil Lapis 2 actually is pretty good with that effect. Getting things removed is really, really good. A lot of decks have a hard time dealing with that, and Gil Lapis just says, okay, I'm going to use your entire deck against you. Now he hits that white source, down comes the Barrier Seal, which really makes my Shade less vulnerable or valuable, and he did hit my Manifestation already, so unfortunately that's just, you know, bad. I only have one more left in the deck, so it's going to be a struggle to see if I can get to it in time. He's going to play that little red again. Pays one more to cast Memory of Disappearance. He does this kind of in a weird order. Cast the Memory of Disappearance to bring the Lightning Strike back to his hand, and then just passes the turn. So draw to me. I'm gonna go ahead and recover. See, I see that Flute's Water Dragon, which is excellent for me. Pay one, get the Flute's Water Dragon. Gonna use it to call for stone. And I'll use Flute to try to draw a card here, or I can either do that, or I can try to flip right here and use that Truth of Time to try to fuel my hand back up again, which is probably the least optimal position. It really makes his next turn Final Battle is going to be very effective, but I need to cast that Truth of Time now unsealed so I can try to draw 2 cards and try to fuel up my hand. So you see, still no Manifestation of Power, which is really bad. I have another Truth of Time, but I can't cast it, so I just have to kind of sit on everything here. And then I'll swing in for 6, or I decide to think about maybe thinking about swinging for 6, but I know he's got that Lightning Strike, so he could just burn me out of the way. So it's better for me to just kind of be patient. I am going to go ahead and cast a second Shade, and this is to prevent him from being able to flip that Gil Lapis and just kind of go off. So I'm trying to put pressure back on him here. Again, didn't think about the fact that he probably has Final Battle and a board wipe is potential here. But the other beauty is if he does do Final Battle, I can still use the Shades to gain a bunch of life, which helps me stall out. And Flute in this deck doesn't really necessarily need to be flipped, especially once I get to 7 stones. She's pretty much just drawing me cards anyway. So he pays 1 here, plays the Final Battle, paying, I believe he pays 16, so that he can kill everything on my board because of Flute's defense. In response, I'm going to go ahead and use the Shades to kill the little red. I'll gain 1200 life, go up to 48, and then everything will get killed, including my Flute. So now there's a 3,000 point life gain difference. That wasn't a terrible Final Battle to be hit by, honestly. Yes, he is going to get to flip here. He's going to use his Energized coin and 1 to flip. This is not terrible for me because he's not still at pretty low stone count. So he's not going to be able to make a huge use of Gil Lapis's ability. And it did cost him a lot of life to make that play happen, and I'm pretty high up on life, which is really nice. He is going to pay 1 here. This is the interesting thing here that unfortunately I kind of fuel his deck for him. He pays 1 so that he has the little shelf for Gil Lapis' ability, grabs little Water Dragon, and then uses Water Dragon for tap for stone. Because you can you can do them both at the same time. You just can't call for stone with your ruler the same turn it comes into play. J-Ruler the same turn it comes into play. And you also can't Judgment with a ruler that's been rested. But with Flute's Water Dragon, it becomes that ruler. So he essentially used Gil Lapis to let himself call for stone, which puts him in a much better position because now he's Judgmented and he can swing with Gil Lapis and call for a stone every turn, which is just no bueno for me. So I have now unsealed Truth of Time, so again, I'm digging to try to hit that Manifestation of Power or ways to deal with Gil Lapis. Just trying to dig as fast as I can to hopefully see if something comes up. I'm going to play the Will-O-The-Wisp. Again, lets me draw a card, seeing if maybe I can get something good here. And then I go ahead and just decide to say, hey, let's just draw even more cards, and I'll play a Blue Planet, which lets me draw a card and gets me 1 step closer to quick cast everything. Now you see I have double Shade in my hand. That is excellent. That means that next turn I'll be able to kill Gil Lapis, provided, especially since Shade will let me quick cast stuff. so I can make that play happen. He's going to use both of his will in the upkeep here to create that shelf of 2 for Gil Lapis. So this turn he's going to be able to cast any card one time, cast any card in my RFG that costs 2 or less, which at this point I think is pretty much anything in my RFG. He could grab Shade here, which I think might be good, but the problem is with Will-O-the-Wisp, and I'm probably just going to be dropping barrier stuff. Like, he's going to have to target his own things to get the life gain off of Shade, so that's kind of suboptimal. But he can just cast Truth of Time for 1. It's free if he pays that up during the upkeep. So pays it during the upkeep, cast Truth of Time, draw 2 cards, especially after he calls for this stone here. So he saw that stone that he accidentally flipped underneath, and we're just playing for fun, so it was all good. So he starts to pay 1 to cast the Truth of Time, and I'm like, you don't have to pay for it. He just gets to cast it, and then it gets re-RFG'd because of Barrier Seal. So this is really good for him. So all of those cards in my RFG are just going to continually cycle, because they go in the chase, and then they get re-removed, and he can just cast them again. So Truth of Time is just like, hey, you're going to draw 3 cards per turn if there's nothing else in my RFG you want to cast. That's pretty awesome. In comes the Attoractia, lets him draw another card. See, he has another Barrier Seal here. He has the other Attoractia in his hand. So the reason why it's face down is actually a mistake on my part, and I have to apologize. I was supposed to bring the Attoractias to the day we recorded this, and I completely forgot them. So for those of you who don't know, Attoractia is a 2-drop edition that just says draw a card, and it has shift of 7. And if you shift it for 7, it can then tap and remove a card from either side of the field that has attribute fire, attribute water, attribute wind, attribute any of the attributes, and void that it hasn't already removed a copy of. That's like not currently in the RFG. And if it does all of that, then you can tap it one more time, put those 6 cards back in a graveyard successfully, and win the game. We're not using it for that. We're using it for the just as a removal source, because with Remains of Attoractia, with Memory to Memoria, and the Valentina, you get to kind of just cycle those cards infinitely back into the deck, as well as with Gil Lapis too. Essentially, he has the combo here with Gil Lapis to give himself like different effects, and you can use Attoractia infinite times to remove things, because you just put the cards of the attribute it's already removed back into the deck and then remove them again. So that lock is now in place at this point. The question is, you know, can I play around it by killing Gil Lapis and keeping Valencione off the board? So he chooses not to attack there, which is a little bit interesting. I probably would have just given it flying and swung in. But, you know, it's his prerogative one way or the other. So I'm going to pay 4 here to play 2 Shades. And it's a good thing that I'm doing this now, because his Attoractia isn't shifted, so he can't remove them. I'm just trying to prevent him from being able to draw everything every turn. I also might as well just cast that second Flute Planet, because it's more draw power. There's nothing really my deck can do, but I can just cast it later for a quick cast if I need to. And then before he draws on his turn, I'm going to just burn the Gil Lapis, go up to 6 grand life, and get that off the board completely. It should be noted that neither of these lists run Riula or Black Moonbeam, so if you wanted to run these competitively, that's probably where you would want to go first, to be able to heal your ruler or insta-kill another Jade ruler. We just decided to not put those in the lists, just because we wanted to be like, yeah, when our rulers are dead, and kind of keep playing and see what happens. So at this point, both of our rulers are permanently astral. He's going to swing in with the Gil Lapis to hit my Will-O-the-Wisp. I'm going to see if I can maybe draw into something by quick casting the second blue planet and drawing a card. Nope, can't see anything. I was maybe hoping to see a Flute's Water Dragon so I could quick cast it and block, but didn't work. I'm going to gain 6 life from it dying, because Will-O-the-Wisp gets to gain life for every point of damage that it takes, which is nice. So we all both have a ton of cards in our hand at this point. pays 4. Out comes, he's going to go ahead and just cast the shifted Gil Lapis and shift his Attoractia. We're just going to turn it over to represent that it's shifted, because again, we don't have the card. And so now he's just going to be able to tap it to remove whatever cards that he wants. And then once he gets a Valencion, the red-black 4-drop, he's in pretty good shape to be able to just kind of cycle me out and keep everything off the board. He taps Gil Lapis for a stone there instead of using the little guy, and then pokes me for 5 damage in the air because it is unsealed at this point. Goes to my turn. I draw, I recover. Didn't see a dragon during the upkeep, so I can't quick cast it, which is sad. I do have a Plot of Water Darkness, Charlotte's Water Transformation Magic, and now that I'm up to 7 stones, I'm just going to go ahead and draw cards because I need them. I do have a hook here, which would probably be a good thing to just bounce, but the problem is with that Attoractia, I'm kind of in trouble there. I do have that Magic Rebound, which is awesome. I'm going to actually go ahead and pass, and he targets that the blue planet with Attoractia, and in response, I'm actually just going to Magic Rebound it, and I pay 1 more than I should here, because I'm thinking it's Plot of Water and Darkness. So that's a misplay on my end. I pay too much will. So I'm going to redirect the Attoractia to actually target his Gil Lapis. And the reason why this is it'll protect all my white and black creatures that I am going to quick cast in, which includes Abdul and Almerius. And because I want to try to maybe trip him up next turn by using Abdul as a quick cast card to prevent him after he like pays a lot of will to put something into play, just prevent the enter from it. So I essentially redirected his Attoractia back at his own card, which is totally fine and helpful for me, but I paid 1 too much will, and unfortunately it's probably going to come back to bite me in the end. Because without that 1 extra will, I could have quick cast Hook, which would have been pretty nice. I could have simply, you know, if he puts another big creature out on the board after paying a bunch of will, like quick cast in Hook, you know, and then I'm just safe. I'm going to take all the damage here. Well, he swings in with the dragon. I take the 5 in the air from there, and then I play the quick cast the Will-o'-the-Wisp, draw a card, see if I can maybe draw something off of it. Don't really see anything, and so I'm just going to go ahead and actually take the damage. Reason why I do that is because I want to keep the water creature on field for Plot of Water Darkness. Just thought I can get both modes and get a token and kind of wall up. That's what this deck kind of does, is it just becomes pretty defensive to a point where once it starts to combo off, and then it's just like, well, I've gained so much life and I have so much field advantage, there's no way you're going to be able to come back. The problem is he got rid of most of my field advantage repercussion because of the barrier seal. All of my shades are RFG'd. Because Shade is a spirit, so Almerius can bring back Shade, which is really awesome. Calls that stone, hits an Ebon home, hits a dragon, which is pretty unfortunate for me. In response to the cast of the Gil, then in comes the Abdul to prevent him from being able to search out a 1-drop spell. The Abdul's going to resolve. The Gil Lapis is going to have his effect prevented. So then he's going to cast Memory of Disappearance and then bring back the Gil Lapis back to his hand. And then just use Attoractia to remove Abdul. So if Memory of Disappearance was an instant speed, that would have been much better for him, and the fact that he could have, you know, in response to the Abdul cast, like bring it back, and then before Gil Lapis resolves, you know, RFG Abdul and everything else. But it worked out that he couldn't in that moment, so pretty helpful for me. So he just doesn't get the search off, which is fine. Valencion now comes into play. It's going to be able to kind of cycle stuff, and again, that little lock with the Attoractia is now in place, so he can just, you know, permanently for free cycle whatever card he's already RFG'd to just re-turn on Attoractia. He's going to swing at my face for 9.
I have to take the I choose to take the damage here. I don't want to lose the Will-o'-the-Wisp quite yet. Call for stone, or no, it's called to draw another card. I have a third Plot of Water Darkness here. I can cast 2 of them and just kind of wipe the board a little bit, which is what I decide to do. Kill the Valencion to get her off the board. Kill the 10th drop to get him off the board. And so, you know, Will-o'-the-Wisp can block the other Gil Lapis and keep myself safe. And I just wanted to get things off the board. I do have the hook still. I have the ability to do the Charlotte's Water transformation magic if I really need to, and I can just, you know, see how things go from here. He does draw into another final battle, which is really bad for me because it does negs, not life, not damage. So he can just like pay 2 life and kill Will-o'-the-Wisp, which is what he's gonna do. So he goes into 16. Will-o'-the-Wisp dies, is now out of the way, and he can start just pinging my life away. So take 6, take 5, takes me down to 25. Plays another one of this guy, gets to go into his hand, grabs a Heteroclite, and at that point I just go, yeah, you got it, there's no way I can come back. Even with the hook and everything, it's just too much advantage because you can just RFG forever. So I say, let's go ahead and just go to game 2, and hopefully I don't deal with a barrier seal so fast. So I'm going to be going on the draw, and the reason why I'm doing this is because Flute really likes to go on the draw. Being able to energize into a turn 1 dork, call for stone, and draw a card all at once is pretty nice. I do have to be careful though because he does play the lightning strikes. I don't necessarily want to get hit with those. Doesn't matter anyway because I didn't even see a turn 1 Dragon Dork RFG's a card, hits a Truth of Time, which he's just going to be able to draw cards from later, and passes the turn. Call for a stone because I didn't see a Dork, or a Flute Dork, I guess. Pass the turn there. Ebon Home hits another Truth of Time, which is really unfortunate. Plays Lapis Dark Storm. I've got a lot of cards in my hand, 6 cards at this point. Hits card number 5, which is a Truth of Time, so 3 Truth of Times just like that are all gone. So there's all my draw power, and then I'll discard a Magic Rebound and then draw for turn. Call for another stone, because unfortunately, again, didn't get lucky enough. Play the Will-o'-the-Wisp to draw another card, hopefully, and there's my dragon. I choose not to play it, though, because I know he plays the Lightning Strike, and I've already called for stone, so I don't want to waste it getting killed and RFG'd, which turns out to work out perfectly, because he top decks a Lightning Strike right there, so he could just punish me. Casts another Dark Storm, hits my hand again. It's not a super huge issue for me because of the fact that I'm going to be able to draw cards with Flute as long as he doesn't hit my dragon. He hits an Abdul here. I'm not going to let him hit my dragon. I'd instead decide to discard Shade. Shade's not super relevant right now, and hopefully I can live long enough to make it so that I can bring Shade back without Almerius. Play my Dork, draw a card, pay 2 more, play an Abdul, swing at him for 1 damage, yay! And I've got the 1 will open. He tries to make the dragon be removable, just like he did before, and then in comes the Lightning Strike before the upkeep to just kill it and get it RFG'd. See, he's got the Heteroclite in his hand to deal with the Abdul here, so he's going to pay 1, Heteroclite, takes 500 damage, and the Abdul gets removed. 3, and then he got the White Source, so then Gil Lapis, so now he gets to search for a 1-drop. So you can search for Nameless Mist or Heteroclite. You can actually search for Final Battle, but we were not quite aware of that at the time of this recording, so we just kind of made a gentleman's agreement to not. But he can search for Final Battle here. I want him to stay off Barrier Seal for as long as possible, and knowing that he didn't grab the Heteroclite, I'm just going to go ahead and pay everything into a hook and bury his Heaven's Rift under a Ebon Home. I am going to lose a card from the Ebon Home flip, but it essentially buys me 2 turns where Barrier Seal just can't get cast, which gives me more time to maybe hit an Almerius or something like that and bring back my Shades. Calls for stone, hits an Ebon home, hits an Abdul off the top of my deck. Out comes the other Heteroclite to kill the Hook. He doesn't take any damage though because he has the Gil Lapis that prevents life loss from spells. He's got a Dark Alice, a Nameless Mist. Chooses to try to draw some cards. He casts the Nameless Mist here. He sees Magic Rebound, Plot of Water Darkness, and Charlotte's Water Transformation Magic. Hits the Charlotte's, which I think is an interesting play. I probably would have grabbed the Plot, because it is a removal spell. And then he plays that Guinevere. Draws to me. I go ahead and call for another stone. See a Manifestation of Power in my hand, which is really nice considering how he just uses Nameless Mist, so hopefully I don't have to deal with that for a while. So if he does hit a Barrier Seal here, I have the answer to it almost immediately, which is excellent. And I have the will to cast it and Plot of Water Darkness, so I can kill kind of whatever kind of comes out this turn. He's trying to decide whether he wants to kill the Dark Alice or not, or just go ahead and do Judgment. Swings in for 7. I'm going to attempt to kill it with the Plot of Water Darkness. He's going to sacrifice it to Gwen so we can draw some cards. Draws into a Nameless Mist. And a Gil Lapis. And he knows he hits a white source here, so that's actually pretty good for him. Because you can call for stone, hit the white source, play the Gil Lapis, and then go grab another Heteroclite and just be like refueled. Or another Nameless Mist or whatever he needs. Calls for stone, hits the white source. Plays the Gil, actually goes and grabs a one drop card. Really excellent play for him. Play line guys, another Heteroclite, so if I bring out another big thing next turn, he can just kill it, which is really good. He doesn't necessarily need to look at my hand right now, and he wants to get the Nameless Mist plus value right now, like when he has a creature to benefit from it, and he's just gonna go ahead and keep one up so that he, you know, threatens with a 1-drop essentially. Call for another stone. Now my Truth of Times are unsealed. I happen to have a Truth of Time, so I'm going to go ahead and cast it and draw 2 cards. See, I have a Flute's Water Dragon there, but that's worthless because I've already called for stone this turn, which is unfortunate. Pay 2. Cast the Undyne to put the Gil Lapis back in his hand. Now I know that seems kind of weird, but I want to just get it off the board. Eventually he runs out of 1-drop spells anyway, and I'd rather he just doesn't put in damage, because the longer he doesn't put in damage, the more likely it is that my life gain's just going to be too intense for him to deal with. Targets the Undyne with Gil Lapis and then Lightning Strikes it, as is very common with his deck. Sees that we're tied for damage-wise. Pays 2, does Judgment. Definitely has enough cards in my RFG at this point to cast it for just 2. Pays 1 to grab the Flute's Water Dragon again, just like he did in game 1. Calls for stone, hits the second stone. And then just passes the turn, which I think is interesting. I probably would have just sacrificed the guy calling you a stone to draw you some more cards. See if you can draw into a Barrier Seal. I'm gonna cast another. I'm gonna cast my little guy, so I can call for stone. Go up to 7 stones. So now if I happen to get a blue planet, I just get to turn on everything for quick cast, draw a card, and there's my blue planet. So now everything in my hand from here on out, as long as that card exists, is gonna get quick cast. Now you see I have that Almerius in there, I have Undyne in there, just a lot of, you know, with the quick cast creatures, it's really, really nice because you can just really mess with the board state a lot. and provided he doesn't see a barrier seal anywhere, it's going to be really nice for me to be able to quick cast down Marius's and grab Shades back at instant speed, gain a bunch of life. Lots of good stuff comes on here. He has that shelf with Gil Lapis that makes it a 2-cost shelf, so anything in my RFG that costs 2 or less, which at this point is everything, you can just cast one of them when it should be able to be cast for free. Taps for a stone, hits his 6th stone, so now he can cast that Truth of Time, goes into my graveyard because he doesn't have Barrier Seal, and he just gets to draw 2 cards. Hey, look, there's a Barrier Seal. Barrier Seal comes down, all of those cards are going to get RFG'd, and I'm very sad because I had Almarius in my hand to start reusing the Shades and stuff, but at least I've stalled it for this long, and even then I have some stuff in my hand and quick cast spirits in my hand, and I haven't even used all my Shades yet. I've only seen one, so that's pretty good. Cast the Nameless Mist, and in response I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm going to blow up that Barrier Seal with Manifestation. Barrier Seal will actually get RFG'd, Nameless Mist will not. Manifestation will also get RFG'd, so that Barrier Seal being in his graveyard is actually incorrect. He puts the +1 counter on the Dork, the Water Dragon. Thankfully he doesn't have another Barrier Seal in his hand, otherwise I'd feel real sad. The reason why it's actually pretty relevant that he he mistakenly put the Barrier Seal in his graveyard instead of the RFG is the fact that if he hit it into the great RFG, he could just cast Memory of Disappearance, bring it back to his hand, and then immediately recast it, which would just be an absolute punish for me. He's going to give Flying to Gil Lapis, swing in for 10, I'll take 10, go down to 23. I don't catch it either, it's definitely not intentional that I didn't point it out to him. Just noticing it here now that is incorrect. Because of the way the chase works and last known information, Barrier Seal would see itself being removed by its own effect. Gonna quick cast an Undyne at the end of the turn, bring my dragon back to my hand because I'm technically the owner. I think that's another Manifestation of Power in my hand, which is excellent, just in case he drops another one of these bad boys. Oh no, it's Ia, so I have an unblockable to try to finish the game with. Call for a stone, draw a card, gotta love it. All this quick cast stuff. Swing in for 1 at the Gil Lapis. Reason why I'm doing this is I'm trying to get Will-O-The-Wisp to die, and gaining life is always really nice. So I gain 200 life from it killing the Gwen, and then I'll swing into, I think about swinging into Gwen, but then I say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just swing into the Gil and kill itself. And he says, okay, I'm going to Thunder it, and I go, yeah, sure, that's fine. And I just let it die. Either way, I got him to waste a card. He might have been thinking that I might just play Shade or something and just burn him, but then I'm just gonna go ahead and cast Almarius and roll a die. I hit 6 here, so I get to bring both of my spirits back. I gain 8 life, I draw a card, and I bounce his Gwen. So, like I said, Almarius, when it sticks, is very, very nice. And you see I do have that Shade there, so 1 Shade down, 1 Shade to go before I can answer Gil Lapis. And I can quick cast lots of stuff in my hand right now, the Undyne, the Shade, and the Dragon, which is excellent to be able to deal with any blockers that he has, or if he plays a big creature with so many water stones. At this point I have 1, 2, 3, I have 6, so Undyne can bounce anything that's a 6-drop or less back to his hand, which is excellent for keeping the board clear. He creates that 2-drop shelf because, again, everything in my graveyard at this point, or RFG at this point, is a 2-drop or less. Now, he could cast Manifestation of Power, which might actually be a good thing for him to do, so that he could kill the blue planet. The other thing that he could have done here is, don't forget, Gil can be used during both players' turns, so he could have, during the end of my turn, paid 2, popped my Manifestation, and then gone to his turn, recovered, paid 1, and then grabbed that dragon. So now he's just got to make a choice. And that's the weird thing with Gil, like, you have to decide when you want to be casting these effects and tapping yourself out. because you can only cast the cards when they could naturally be casted. Sorry, when they can naturally be cast. So like you can't cast a non-instant speed card at instant speed. So you have to kind of be careful about the timing and will manipulation here of when you do things. This plays one for the Heteroclite to kill my Almerius, and then he takes the 5 damage, and then he's going to play Gil Lapis and go into his deck and draw a card. At this point in time, he grabs, I think, another Nameless Mist. And again, we're talking about, you know, we weren't grabbing Final Battle because we were unsure of the rules in this video, but then we looked at it afterwards, and the total will cost of Final Battle when it's in the deck is considered to be 1, so Gil Lapis can grab Final Battle, which is pretty intense. He's going to go ahead and swing 10, but he doesn't give it flying first, so I'm just going to go ahead and block with Will-O-the-Wisp and gain 10 life. This is, again, the importance of just, you might as well just cycle cards with Gil Lapis too. It's a free effect, and, you know, 10 damage in the air is pretty relevant. Essentially, his 10 damage swing turned into a 10 damage life gain spell for me, which was really nice. So play the Shade during the end of his turn here. He says that's fine. I'm also going to play a Dragon during the end of his turn. Draw into a card. I actually see the second Shade there, which is excellent. And I'm going to go ahead and just right off the bat burn him for 6 damage. And then I'm just going to swing one of my little dorks into him. So he's dead, which is really nice. He also could have used Gil Lapis's effect here to just kill the Shade on his turn. But again, it would have tapped him out, and at that point I had 2 5/5 flyers, and he'd already swung, so he was going to be taking the damage anyway. Either way, he couldn't have killed both. And both my dragons would have been able to swing in, you know, a little bit suboptimal, but it would have gotten rid of him, which is excellent. So I use Dragon to call for stone. I use Flute to draw a card. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, out comes another Almerius. I could quick cast it, but I mean, I'm just like, I'm going to go ahead and just play it. Try to maximize value next turn. Almerius comes into play. I'm going to roll a die. Get a 5. Will-O-the-Wisp and Shade come back out. I get to grab, gain another 8 life, draw a card, and now I have Shade back. So with Almerius, Shade essentially becomes a 1k burn spell, which is just excellent. Out comes another Shade, I'll gain another 400 life, becomes 6100, and now I have removal like crazy to deal with anything he plays on his turn. Calls for a stone. He targets, I think, one of the Shades. Or no, he targets Almerius, I think, to remove it. I was looking at my RFG pile. Not that it matters, because he can't access it anymore, which is good. Cast that Memory of Disappearance. I think he's going to go grab a Final Battle at this point and just neg my board. If he has one in the RFG, which he does not, he grabs a Heteroclite, and he's going to use that to kill my Almerius. Again, just keeping them off the board for as long as possible. He's actually going to try to target a Shade with it, which I think is very interesting. Doesn't have to pay the life points for it, but now I've just put damage on the Gil Lapis, 6 damage, and I gain 6 life, up to 6,700. Plays a Nameless Mist. It doesn't hit anything, I just have Resonators in my hand. Grabs another stone, so now the Gil Lapis is stronger, and I can just go ahead and kill it if I feel like it, based on, you know, whether or not he plays something else that I might want to affect better. Casts this Dark Alice. Which I can't prevent. I don't have any spells in my hand, and none of my Resonators can do anything about it. About the effect, I don't have any Abduls. I don't even have the will to cast Abdul. So those Shade and the Dragon are going to get removed. She gains 2 +1/+1 counters. She's now a 7/7. Casts 1. Plays a Guinevere. During the end of the turn, I'm going to cast Undyne, and I'm going to bounce the Guinevere back to his hand just so he can't draw. I also gain 4 life because it's a spirit, and Almerius triggers. So I'll draw for turn. During the upkeep, I'll go ahead and ping the Gil Lapis for 6 damage, go up to 77 life. Drawing a card after tapping for stone. Now I'm at 10 stones, so now I can just tap Flute every turn to draw a card, which is excellent. I could have also Judgmented Flute and just grabbed Spirit Flute Shade back for free since I don't have an Almerius in my hand, but Swing in the air for 10 with Almerius. See, I have a hook too, which is really nice. I essentially have lethal on board here if I hadn't tapped for stone. Oh wait, no I don't. I'm a little bit short. But 4 damage. It's gonna let that go through. And then another 4 damage, which is also going to go through. He's gonna go down go ahead and go down to 10. And I have just lots of creatures that I can just crit cast at this point, including the hook and the Will-o'-the-Wisp and everything else. So it's very unlikely that I'm not going to be able to deal 1,000 damage next turn. Plus the life point difference is so insanely high. And you can't really use Final Battle at this point now to either to deal with the Almerius. So I'm pretty safe. So he's going to go ahead and pay 2 here. Plays the Barrier Seal just because why not, hoping that I don't have an Almerius. Pays 3, plays the Gil Lapis, gets a card out of there. The other thing is too, I have the Ia in my hand, so it doesn't really matter what he plays here because I quick cast in the Ia and then I just have unblockable 15/15. So the reason why I included Ia is just as a fun thing is because it's like a pseudo seal. It doesn't count specific number of magic stones, it counts water magic stones, and then once you have that many it kind of gets an additional effect. So it's like, oh, it's like a kind of seal, I'll throw it in as a one of. Plus it's really fun to use with quick cast. Quick cast it in, go to your turn, 15/15, unblockable, just swing in. That can't be targeted by resonator effects. It's pretty fun. And Paul just realizes at this point there's really nothing he can do, but he's just going to go ahead and try for it anyway. Like, oh, if I hadn't cast Barrier Seal, it would have been fine, because he could have cast Valencion and then killed it and tried to clear the board a little bit. But again, I tell him it doesn't really matter because of the creatures I have in my hand. I could cast Ia and Hook and just make it so that nothing he does is relevant. But we are going to finish out the turn, and then we'll go into game 3. So thankfully I was able to get enough pressure work done before the Barrier Seals dropped, you know, and stuck to really make it so that I was able to get that massive amount of advantage. So he swings at the one Will-o'-the-Wisp, and then just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and cast another Will-o'-the-Wisp, and then block with that Will-o'-the-Wisp, and then I'll pay 3 even beforehand. Go ahead and block with the other Will-o'-the-Wisp. And my stones get weird here. I don't mean to untap my water stone here. We're just being goofy, and he scoops up the game. So I show him the Ia, I have the hook, I have the, you know, the Plot of Water Darkness, everything else was going to stick there. And then we're just going to go ahead and move into the third game. So game 3, right off the bat, you see he has not 1 but 2 Barrier Seals in his hands. Normally he'd want to probably ship one of those away, but he's probably going to keep both of those. That actually might be post-mulligan hand. I don't remember the editing. No, it's pre-mull. He only actually mulligans 1 away, which I think is interesting. But but with a double barrier seal, I think he can afford to kind of stall out, and the fact that he's on the draw. So hit the first turn light source, go ahead and say pass turn. He plays the turn 1 barrier seal. I don't know, and then he draws for turn. He forgot to draw for turn there. He doesn't draw off a barrier seal. I'm going to go ahead and pay 1, play the dragon, call for a stone, tap for a stone, draw a card. Draw a card off a flute. Trying to see that manifestation of power. Maybe things get unsealed effectively and whatever. It's kind of a race at this point. If I was him, I would probably just play that second barrier seal right now and just be like, well, your manifestations are worthless, because I'm not in a position to be able to like do 2. But he's going to go ahead and say I'm going to get value off of it instead and just do Lapis Darkstorm, get 2 cards RFG'd, which is still really, really strong. I'm going to go ahead and let him take an Abdul at this point. Thankfully, my dragon survives. I get to call a stone and draw a card every turn, second card every turn, keep my hand full to help deal with the Lapis Darkstorms. I'll play out a Shade, but I do the same thing from game 1 as I meant to play Abdul. He has that Heteroclite in hand, so it doesn't really matter, but at least at this point, you know, he's going to be able to make sure it stays dead. He takes 5 damage, kills the Abdul, gets RFG'd. Calls for a stone. Pays 1 and plays Nameless Mist. We're just kind of discarding my whole hand here. Sees I have lots of spells, but no manifestations of power, sadly. The Truth of Time, though, is probably what he's going to hit here, just because it helps him draw cards. It helps me to draw cards, and so if he gets rid of it, then it'll help him draw cards, especially since the barrier seal's in place. Can't hit the Shade, though. Does decide to hit the Plot of Water Darkness, which is a very interesting play, I think. I probably would have hit, like I said, the Truth of Time because he gets the most value out of it. And then just plays the Guinevere and passes the turn. Call for stone with the dragon. See, I have the Ia there. I'm going to go ahead and do Judgment here. Reason why I'm doing Judgment already is because I need that Truth of Time. I'm going to go ahead and cast it. Tap that differently. I am tapping it so I have 1 white and 1 blue up, just in case I draw into a manifestation. So now I have unsealed Truth of Time, so I'm going to get to draw 2 cards. Still don't see manifestation, but I do have double Shade, so at least now I can deal with Gil Lapis as soon as it flips. So it is a little bit of a risk here flipping Flute this early, but with not a ton of stuff on the field, it's a wonder if he's gonna if he would cast Final Battle just to wipe those 2 creatures off the board, considering you'd have to pay 16 life to do it. He's gonna sacrifice the Guinevere to itself, draw into a 3rd barrier seal. So now at this point, my manifestations are worthless, but I can't possibly know that. Casts the Shion, which will then get to RFG my dragon because it gets to kill a 2-drop. He has to decide here whether he wants to swing at my face or swing with my my flute. He's gonna go ahead and swing for the 9. I'm debating whether or not I want to block or take the damage. Thinking about it, and I choose to go ahead and just take the 9 damage. Reason for that is I'm liking things being unsealed, and if I happen to get Blue Planet, as you see there, then I get advantage to some really fun stuff, at least for a second. So out comes Blue Planet, which will then become unsealed because of Flute. So now every card in my hand has Quick Cast, which is really, really fun. Unfortunately, you're also going to see me misplay horribly here in a second, but we'll get to that. So now we're getting a pretty good pile of stuff RFG. Not a really lot of good stuff for him to play around with except for the dragon. He's going to swing at my flute. And unfortunately, I just let it happen without quick casting anything. So now my Blue Planet is unsealed, and that's my massive misplay. And I realized it in about 30 seconds, where I was like, wait a minute, I completely forgot. So then I'll take the damage from the Red Riding Hood, and just like, I could have quick cast an Abdul, I could have quick cast a Water Dragon, everything else, and instead I just completely whiff on it. Hits an Ebon home, which hits a Charlotte's Water Transformation magic. He plays a Guinevere, and then I realized that I had completely forgotten to quick cast stuff because now Flute's dead. I was waiting for the end of the turn to make the most out of the value, but Paul played that really, really smoothly. I have 3 shades at this point, which is really nice. I will play that Water Dragon slowly, call for a stone with it, and then draw a card off of Flute. I have a Plot of Water Darkness, so I'm going to head and play a Shade. I'm going to go ahead and pass the turn. I'm leaving the Plot of Water Darkness Will up right now because I want to see if he possibly has a play or something first. He does target to make the Shade be RFG'd, which is irrelevant because Barrier Seal's on the board, and it's going to get RFG'd anyway. Reason why I'm kind of waiting is because if something else bigger than Balance Shield comes into play and I want to try to deal with it, I can do something like this. Plot of Water Darkness to try to kill it, and I'll get both modes because I control a Water and a Darkness Resonator. So now I'm going to get a 4/4 token, so essentially I get to go +1, really, because I kill a creature and get a creature. And I also happen to save my Water Dragon, which is excellent. I'm only 1 stone away at this point from Blue Planet being unsealed, which then means any card in my deck that matters at all is technically unsealed. It's going to cast that Memory of Disappearance, and then re-grab the Balanchion and then just replay it, leaving himself 1 stone up, trying to target the Shade, and then I'm going to head ahead and burn the Little Red Riding Hood, gain my 7 life, and he tries to cycle away to make Balanchion be able to kill my dude, but then he actually just decides to pass, I think. So he has another Memory of Disappearance in there, which is just awful. I have my Manifestation of Power. Again, little do I know that it's not going to mean anything here in a second. Call Stone. Now I have access to quick cast everything. I'm going to go ahead and say die to the Barrier Seal, which we catch it this time and actually properly RFG it. Manifestation of Power should also be RFG'd. That's, again, a little bit of a mistake. Last known information, we'll see things leaving the chase as being RFG'd. So gonna go ahead and cast another Barrier Seal, which then just makes me more mad. It removes the 1 card and just says, oh, okay, I'm really not gonna be able to manipulate stuff, which is unfortunate. Attempts to try to swing in after cycling some cards for precision. He attempts to kill the token, which seems really weird. I'm just gonna go ahead and let him do that. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That seems kind of weird. He's leaving the Water Dragon up. I think maybe it's because I'm really not quite sure why he's doing that. He goes ahead and pays 2, leaving up the white source, which is smart to do the Judgment. And then he pays 1, I believe here, to grab a Water Dragon. Don't actually have a Water Dragon RFG'd at this point, though, so he needs to kill that one before it can be usable. Cycles away some cards to give it some swiftness. Cycles away my Undyne. Attempts to kill my little baby Water Dragon. I'm going to go ahead and quick cast in the Will-O-The-Wisp. Now, he could also respond here by cycling another card to give it flying before moving to blockers. But again, it's just these little things about, you know, the ins and outs of combat. But he does let me block with the Will-O-The-Wisp. So my dragon survives for a turn, which is nice. And then I get to gain a grand life. And also at the end of the turn, I'm going to go ahead and cast in a Shade. No 1 drops to hit. Call from another stone. Draw another card off of Flute. and then cast the second Shade. So now the Gil Lapis is going to be dead. So again, we're going to be back to a game where neither of us has a ruler, and I am going to start being way up on life, which is excellent. And with quick cast stuff, things like Final Battle become much less effective because I can cast all my creatures at the end of his turn before they become a before they become something he even wants to Final Battle with. And if he pays a bunch of life to create a board state where Final Battle kind of permanently negatives things, then he's going to miss out because of the fact that he's just simply not going to be able to then I just won't cast creatures. Now you see that little cut there? We actually had an issue with the memory card and we had to switch memory cards, but this is the same board state, same cards, everything else. It's just a little bit of a quick cut. So sacrifices the Guinevere there to draw some cards and discard, and then goes to his turn. So I'm way up on stones, I'm way up on life. He does have the Valencione, I do have a dragon, but everything has quick cast at this point. And both of our rulers are dead, which is excellent. I definitely benefit from that situation better than he does. Plays Lapis Dark Storm, so I'm going to lose a couple cards here. Before he resolves that, though, I'm going to go ahead and quick cast in Abdul. Because I don't want him to hit the Abdul or get any particularly nasty enter effects this turn. Which wouldn't really matter. He can just put a card back and give Swiftness and Precision to Valentina. But still, I don't want him to hit it. I'd rather him have to spend the resources in that way. Ia gets knocked out again. Can't seem to make that card stick. And then I'm going to discard the Rain of Light, which is, in this matchup, just not really doing much for me. This is a matchup where it seems to be all about grinding and dealing with big kind of boss monsters on his side, and Rain of Light just doesn't do that. Going to put the Rain of Light back into my deck because it's worthless and go ahead and kill the Abdul. I'm going to flash in this little dragon and then block to save the Abdul, and he doesn't have an instant speed answer that can kill it because it is unsealed, so it does have the higher defense. So it does get killed, it does RFG, and then he just says, okay, well that's unfortunate. He's going to go ahead and pay 1, cast the Memory of Disappearance, grab a Heteroclite, I believe, here. And then just cast the Heteroclite to kill my Abdul. He just wants it off the board. He takes 500 damage, goes down to 30. Pays the 1 will for it. Goes down to 1 will here to cast the Guinevere. So we can try to draw in some more cards, which seems really good for him. And then at the end of his turn, I don't have anything, unfortunately, that I can quick cast. But before the draw step, I do have a dragon I can quick cast, which is nice. It can't swing this turn, but I can use that one to call for stone, and then my other dragon could potentially swing if I wanted to. So call for stone, draw a card with Flute, refill my hand. Drawing 2 cards a turn is generally pretty nice. I hit a Shade there, which makes my I can't remember. Plot of Water Darkness, sorry. My Plot of Water Darkness is much more effective because I can hit both modes. And I'm just going to say pass. Having quick cast everything in my hand just means that it's better for me to wait and see what Paul does before I try to manipulate the board. It means I can probably outmaneuver him, it means I can out-tempo him, and I can potentially get him to make some mistakes with his will usage that benefits my creatures to be able to swing on his turn. He's going to sacrifice the Gwen to itself, draw 2 more cards. See, he has another Heteroclite Excalibur and a Gil Lapis, so he's just going to start profiting lots of cards there, and he has 2 Lightning Strikes. At this point in time, though, Lightning Strike can't kill either of the dragons. He has to waste both of them on 1 dragon, and 2 for 1s on something so minuscule seems really irrelevant. So he's actually just going to discard the Lightning Strike. The other thing is Lightning Strike is also not going to be used to burn me to death here because I'm going to just gain life way faster than Lightning Strike can burn me out. So there's no reason for him to keep it in his hand. Undyne's going to get RFG'd by the Ebon home. And then he's going to choose how he wants to manipulate the turn here. So he's got 7 stones to my, I think I have 9? 8 or 9 at this point. Swings in with Shion. Pay 2. Cast the Shade. Shade's going to I ask him if Shade resolves. Shade resolves. Cast Plot of Water Darkness. Killing Valencione, and then I get my token. Now I have that 4/4 token, so I can start swinging in damage. plays the Gil Lapis to let him draw, search for 2 cards. He doesn't have any Valencians left, but he does, as far as I know, but he does get to go ahead and grab the Attoractia, which is still pretty good for him. Lets him draw a card, and potentially after it gets shifted, just start removing cards, which is pretty nice. He could use one of the lightning strikes that he still has to just burn away the shade here. It doesn't have it has summoning sickness, so at this point it's not going to be able to burn anything, which would be a good way for him to answer it and just deal with it and stop the life gain. But he plays the Attoractia, draws another Attoractia, and says, you know what, I just want to draw a bunch of cards. I'm going to play both of these and pass the turn. Goes to me. Not going to do anything in the shade with the upkeep because I want to try to get it back to the grave first. Tap for my last stone, draw another card. Still don't see a manifestation of power. So obviously it's going to be a little bit of a hurdle. I'm going to go ahead and seeing how I want to do this here. So I say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and pass. Again, I don't really need to do anything here. It's better for me to just be patient and wait. I have the hook there. I want to see if I can maybe get 2 creatures off of it. Maybe that just works out better for me. He's going to pay 4 to shift. Now, I could be really mean here and force, once he chooses his mode to shift something, I could use that magic rebound to unshift his Attoractia, or like force him to be able to make the cost of himself 0 for the turn, like because it does target, and it doesn't say the card has to have a shift cost. It just says the shift cost of a card becomes 0. If it's already 0, it still becomes 0. So he's going to play that Attoractia. The main reason why I'm saving that magic rebound is I want him to use that Attoractia and then redirect it to something that I want him to remove. So he's going to try to kill the shade here, and I'm going to rebound it to the other Attoractia. Now I could have it target itself, which would be really nice, but then I would have to deal with the other one later, and I'm not super concerned right off the bat of dealing with Attoractia. So I'd rather just him not be able to have access to 2. Right away. It would probably make more sense to have it remove itself, though, because he'd still then have to pay 4 to be able to flip it over, which would just make things really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and say draw 2 cards from Truth of Time, and then I'll say pay 5 here to quick cast in the hook, and I'm going to put that Gil Lapis back in his hand so he can't hit the shade. Pays 1 here for the Heteroclite Excalibur to kill the hook. Takes 5 damage from it. Gets the hook RFG'd. Calls a stone. Hits an Emon home, which makes me RFG a card, which unfortunately is Almerius. Pretty unfortunate. Thankfully, I have another one in my hand that I can quick cast those Door of Times. And I have another Magic Rebound in hand, which is awesome when he has that Attoractia. Lets me turn his own Attoractia against him. Plays 1 for Memory of Disappearance. He's going to go back into his deck, grab the Valencian so he can make use of it later. Casts the little red and then says, I think I'm going to go ahead and swing in, but I think he forgets here that I do have a dragon up, and my dragon is technically bigger stats than him. So I block with the dragon. He says, oh wait, I forgot it has bigger stat line here. So he actually just decides, well, I'm not really using this Thunder Lightning Strike anyway, so I'll try and kill it. And I make a bad play here. I should just let him do this. It's a 2-for-1. He still loses this creature. Instead, I'm just going to go ahead and Magic Rebound it back. And now I can't Magic Rebound the Attoractia. I do get to draw a card, which is nice, but it would have made more sense just for him to make the trade happen, and then I could still have the Magic Rebound to deal with the Attoractia. So that's a little bit of a misplay on my part. So Manifestation of Power is going to finally kill that Attoractia. Pay 1, cast a Truth of Time, which will go to the graveyard, and I get to draw 2 cards. Pay 1. Try to make sure I pick the right one. I'm going to swing in for 5. Swing in for 5, so take him down to 25. Not going to swing with the token. I want to keep it as a blocker, just in case. You see, I have those 3 Almeriuses in my hand, which is awesome, and I have an Undyne. Choosing not to cast the Truth of Time because I don't really need it right now. Targets the shade to try to kill it. I'm going to go ahead and respond by having it target itself. and deal itself 6 damage. So I gain 6 life, go up to 6100. That's a weird ruling, but it is the way it stands. Shade can technically target itself. He casts the barrier seal, but in response, before he can RFG my graveyard, I'm going to cast the Almerius to try to bring the Shade back to my hand and gain a bunch of life. So I'm going to force trigger, roll a 1, doesn't matter, Shade gets RFG'd. So pretty unfortunate, but at least I still have the 10/10 Almerius out there, which is nice. Cost for another stone, hits an Ebon home, RFG's a card. My second blue planet is gone, but I don't think he has a way to get rid of the first one since his Gil Lapis is dead. Debating about what he wants to do here. He still says I still have a blocker. This is a position again where Final Battle would not benefit him because he knows that I can quick cast in something and he'd have to pay 20 life to kill the Almerius, so any amount, or 18 life to kill either of the dragons, so that Final Battle's just dead in his hand, which is really nice. And one of the drawbacks of Final Battle, when if things aren't going your way, Final Battle's not a very good card. He uses the Heteroclite. He is going to take the 5 damage from it, kills the Almerius. The problem is now he's got to deal with these 2 flyers, because if either of those dragons connect, he's just dead. If both of the dragons connect, he's just dead, and they're both flyers. He does get to RFG one of them, which puts him in a little bit better position, leaving him with just 1 will open, Final Battle, and Gil Lapis. And then he tries to give it swiftness so that he can try to kill the other one, which would technically help him reestablish the board. He's going to try to kill the dragon, and then in response, I'm going to go ahead and quick cast in the Ia. And then Ia is going to bounce the Valencion back to his hand. Passes the turn there then, and then once I draw for turn, we look at the stage, and here I've got 13 damage on board, so that's just lethal, and he has no way to answer it. So at that point in time, we count to make sure, and then we say, yep, that is the game. So 13 damage thanks to the token, and that is the end of the game. So there it is, guys. Despite all of the graveyard hate, Flute Spirits definitely managed to come back. Also, despite the misplays on both sides, thank you guys so much for understanding. Hope you enjoyed the match. Huge thanks to Kyle Parks for the inspiration on the Guild 2 list, as well as Tyler McBride for his list on the Flute Spirits. Deck profiles will both be up later this week. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, this is DMO73 signing off.